Okay, so perhaps we start now.
Yeah.
Very interesting topics. I would start with fracking. Who spoke about fracking? You. Yes, we managed to chase out Chevron out of Poland, and it was the success of our party colleague Ewa Sufin-Jacquemart, who supported a small village of Żurawlów in their fight against Chevron. She brought to Poland European Greens like José Bové and Rebecca Harms, who came several times, and actually without European Union, European members of the European Parliament, it wouldn't have been possible. She also brought people from Żurawlów to Strasbourg, to the European Parliament and to Brussels, to the Commission, like to show their plea. And finally we succeeded, fracking for the time being is no topic in Poland, even though it was the big dream of both conservative parties, both Civic Platform and Law and Justice. And the credit must go, the biggest credit, to Ewa Sufin-Jacquemart, who passionately fought for this cause. And someone mentioned that these are often conservative voters who are against fracking. Yes, this is true, but I always say I prefer conservative voters to vote for progressive policies and politicians than vice versa. This is a serious challenge, but we can relate also to voters beyond the left-wing bubble and to convince them that we may represent their demands, their interests better than the politicians of the establishment. And that's something we should do. Not to be selective in the choice of our voters. I know that some left-wing politicians try to play this game. I don't like this group of voters. Or this politician is not reliable because conservative people will vote for him. But you should look always at the policies, and sometimes finding one point in which we relate may be a starting point to transform the situation, to convince people that we represent them on fracking. So perhaps we have also a point on other issues. And I admire this sort of politics. I have a recollection that was an electoral campaign to the European Parliament. It was in 2014. It was not successful because we didn't manage to register lists in all the constituencies, but my colleague and co-chair of the party, Agnieszka Grzybek, was campaigning on a tramway. We hired a tramway, an old 19th century tramway to go through the streets of Warsaw, and we also visited some poorer, lower class districts. And a young man came on the board of this tramway and sat down and started to talk with Agnieszka about our policies. And he said, okay, this clean air I understand, but the right to adoption for gay couples is just too much. And imagine, that was the last day of electoral campaign, and she really wanted him to vote for her. So she started to convince her that this is basically not as threatening as he thought. After 3 tram stops, he was convinced. So I believe that successful politics is also, of course, about representing people, but not always, not necessarily about accepting the ideological positions they may take. France is a big topic in itself. There will be a turmoil and necessary realignment on the left in the future, not far future. I would be preparing for the worst as far as the presidential elections are concerned, and I believe that the worst scenario is more probable than the other one. But still there is a big fight about the Assemblée Nationale, so that will be actually, from my point of view and from the point of view of the future developments on the left in France, much more interesting. With Brexit, actually I expected a different sort of objection. I don't think that destroying European Union will bring us to any better situation. That would be the politics of scorched earth. European Union has I have many issues with the EU as it is now, and I can even basically agree with the hypothesis that it was specifically created in order to prevent socialism in its member states. But still, if we want to have more progressive or socialist solutions or ecological solutions, I don't believe that chaotic retrenchment to nation states is in any way forward. For whatever is the cause we believe in, we need to defend and criticize the European Union at the same time. But I would also like to answer to the objection which was not raised, but I believe is important, because many people or many referendums in recent years have been questioned with talking about people being too stupid or misinformed or not having enough time to think. So it was about or being too xenophobic or whatever. It was about blaming the voters. That's not the thing I'm talking about. Just the opposite. Like blaming the voters for how they voted is really undemocratic and is really not intelligent approach. I'm telling about blaming the guys from establishment, political establishment, financial establishment, and media establishment who manipulated the whole process in their interests. So it should be mobilizing popular anger of 48% and beyond of those people who are betrayed by the political class, to mobilize their anger against the political class and not other way around. That's really crucial, because blaming the voters and saying that they are stupid or not educated or whatever, or xenophobic or racist, is no way forward. It's just reinforcing the predicament in which we find ourselves. And I say ourselves because we really share the same world, the same planet, the same Europe, and even parts of the same society with big Polish population in the United Kingdom. We really are part of the same social world now. It's not like geographical borders is one thing, but communities are closer together than any time in the past. So we also need to take this into account.
I thought the range of points were very wide-ranging and important, and I think it's difficult to frame what I want to say. I'm sure there's things that Adam and I disagree on, but what I think we have in common is that we have a politics which is on the radical left of the Greens, very much with reference to Marxism and Marxist ecology. But as materialists, what we're trying to concern with is how do you actually have a practical political intervention? And too often in politics, particularly when people are on the margins, you have sets of principles and you say how other people don't have the principles, and you view that as politics. And in fact, most of Western politics is about people having different sets of principles. And there's a different political tradition, which is that you are ecological and democratic and intersectional, but the politics is about how you practically intervene. I think one thing we can take from this, hopefully, is there are eco-socialists right across Europe, there are eco-socialists right across the world. There's a very fine eco-socialist party in the Philippines. So just talking to each other, making links, doing practical solidarity is very helpful. And I would emphasise again what's happening in Turkey, where the Kurds built a political project, the HDP, with like LGBT plus movement, other minorities like Armenians, the Greens, and that got votes and got somewhere, and because of that is being very heavily repressed. So we need to look at what worked with that project. It succeeded in terms of a lot of the things that we, people in France or where we relate to Corbyn, want to do, but that's being heavily repressed, and we really need to do, solidarity with the HDP. Again, over the border in Syria, you have Rojava, you've had the Rojava Revolution, very good book, Revolution in Rojava. And it's people building an eco-socialist, feminist republic and fighting at the ISIS at the same time in very different circumstances. So as well as having all the things that we face in Britain and France and Poland and difficulties, look at the struggles that people have and build solidarity. In terms of France, I think in some ways I don't understand French politics, and it's, you know, the British people, British left, you know, we've never won anything, but we want to tell the left right across the world what to do. It's really embarrassing, British left explaining, so I'm not going to do that. But from my very primitive understanding of French politics, it's very positive that you have two formations on the left who are eco-socialist. You know, and I see the dilemma between the two formations, but I think that it's a progress that are there. It may be similar to what we have in Britain with Corbyn, that Corbyn, for many of us, has been a very close comrade. When I had the book launch of my book, The Rise of the Green Left, my book on the Green Left globally, John McDonnell couldn't make it, so Jeremy came, and, you know, for a long time he's worked with Caroline in Parliament. So it's a very similar situation in France, where you have dreadful Socialist Party, dreadful Labour Party, and then suddenly somebody who's elected who has politics which are very similar to the Greens. And obviously those parties are dreadful. We can't just say they're dreadful, but we have to do everything we can to be allies in those parties trying to transform them. So, you know, I can't second guess everything that happens in France, but I think it's maybe a similar situation where you have a very, very bad political institution suddenly with a leader that we would have a lot in common with. In terms of the practical politics, my great inspiration is Elinor Ostrom, as I said. I would really say to people, find out about Elinor Ostrom, and she came very much from the right, very much free marketeers, people like you know, Jane Buchanan, Hayek, but ironically, what she's about is commons and collective ownership. So she was very good on the practicalities of like collective popular ownership. And also she did a lot of politics talking about how you build trust. And trust is kind of forgotten, isn't it? Because it's like we're Greens and we're wonderful, and there's these people who betrayed us, and there's other Greens who betrayed us. So her thing is, how do you actually build trust? So it's things like, she'd say, cheap talk, just talking to people. As my comrade David was saying, and this is one of the things that really inspires me, is somebody as politically sophisticated and left and great as David is a councillor in Norwich, there is some slight hope for the British. You know, that it's actually through people's material concerns, and what you do is you start not with let's have an electoral alliance, but you start with building the campaigns at the local level, building trust, transforming, and if we can support lefts in other parties to struggle on, that's good. If we've got a politics where we're good and you're bad, that's never going to change the world. That's very liberal, idealistic. You know, our planet will burn if we do that. So we have to intervene in terms of trust. And then my other big inspiration is that French Marxist philosopher who's so scandalous I wouldn't name him, so I won't. You know, we talk about like ideology, and that people haven't got intrinsic positions, and there's the work of ideology that integrates people. So we have to look very practically and scientifically about building trust, role of ideology, and we've got to keep thinking it's power. Like, people fuck up, not because they're necessarily bad, but you've got all of these power structures that stop people doing things. Very, very good interview in the magazine Salvage from Warren Montag about the situation in Greece. And, you know, we've got huge forces against us, and one of them, you know, some of them have been like ECB and so on, certainly in Britain, the media. So I don't think there's any straightforward, easy answers. There's some very straightforward, practical solidarity we can do. We can very practically keep on doing this at EGP meetings and other meetings and liaising, and also we can orientate our politics. So I would say that it's an eco-socialist politics, and to me that's a Marxist politics, but it's a politics which is ruthlessly pragmatic, not in the sense of being horrible to people and making betraying people, but, you know, what works in terms of challenging ideology, what works in terms of building trust, what works in terms of transforming institutions. Just, you know, there's not easy answers, but just actually transforming politics, and politics being, we've got a set of things which are lovely, we're sweet, they're bitter, to how you practically intervene, you know, I think is a start.
Yeah, we haven't got much time actually. We've got Okay, just some comments then. Martin.
Yes, Martin Francis, Brent Green Party. I was interested in what Adam was saying about working with trade unions who've got other ideas about the common good. He talked about education workers and health workers. Going back to somebody you may be fairly familiar with, Margaret Thatcher, back in the 70s and 80s, very much was talking about a different ideology to do with the market and neoliberalism and so on, and she took on those unions and so on who represented the common good. We had an organisation covering education in the whole of London called the Inner London Education Authority, which very much promoted the ideas of social equality, gender equality, racial equality, taking on racism and opposing it. And what did Margaret Thatcher do? She abolished the Inner London Education Authority. She couldn't beat it politically in the election box. There was an election booth. There was an election only about education across the whole of London, and the Labour Party won it on quite a progressive platform. So since then, the battle has been about privatisation of health, the privatisation of education and so on. And it's really important that we ally with those. What's been happening quite recently is that parents in Britain have been coming out in solidarity with teachers against the education reform movement, against the testing and the privatisation of education. And I'm really interested not in alliances now with political parties, but with those progressive trade unions, with the movements for parents and others, how we work with those, because we're neglecting that, and we're neglecting that at this conference. And I'm interested to hear internationally what kind of things have been going on there, uniting with social movements over those common values that we have with them.
My name is Tommy Simpson from Dublin. I'm a former member of the Green Party, but also a president of the Dublin Council of Trade Unions for 2 years. And we've tried to do what they're saying, to set up a dialogue, and we've had some dialogue with the Belfast Council of Trade Unions, and got a resolution passed recently by the Irish Congress of Trade Unions, which represents the whole country, the whole island, on climate change, and how looking at it, to set up a subcommittee on how it's going to affect workers and the types of technologies that will be coming about to which will transform work anyway. You know, we've set up this dialogue. We're continuing. It's also being helped by the Green European Foundation in some of the work it's doing. We had a program called Reindustrialization. And there's a consortium of countries, and Belgrade from Croatia is part of that consortium, to try and look at how technology is affecting work, and the current name of it is ecological production in a post-growth society. And it's taking a serious look at all of these developments and setting up the dialogue with community groups, as this gentleman said, to try and get that dialogue going. And I was glad to hear Jared mention the Lucas Aerospace, because again, the Greenhouse, which is one of the British think tanks on the part of the GEF, had a meeting in Birmingham last year, commemorating the anniversary of the Lucas Aerospace workers. This Lucas Plan, this is called, and it's a fabulous website, if you remember, where the workers, when thousands of them were faced with redundancy, came up with what they call the alternative plan. They came up with this idea of socially useful work. Why can't we use the skills of the workers and the production facilities and the machinery to make socially useful products? And there's been many things written on it, and it's a fascinating story. But now the possibility of using modern technology to create local jobs, to do what the Greens have been talking about for a long time, local production for local needs, is now more possible than it was then, even when that plan came out. So I think we need to keep this dialogue going, look at how the Greens can liaise and cooperate with the trade unions, and we're trying to do that in Ireland, and trying to keep it going. And so I do think we should build that trust, as Derek said, and try and keep going. And also, I just want to mention the Greens in government, because the Greens are in government in a few places now, like in Sweden and Finland and a few other places. They're negotiating in the Netherlands, and it's all often very difficult to get things through, especially if you're a small party and trying. But the criticism of Greens in government, I think, is unwarranted in a lot of cases, and because even when we were in government and we lost all our seats at the following election, we did achieve certain things on, say, feed-in tariffs and stuff that wasn't available. But what I will say is this.
Sorry, we're coming to the end of the meeting.
We need to build this trust, and I just want to say that the criticism that came out in the Morning Star by Derek at the time, criticising us, the Communist Party paper, for being in government, was totally unwarranted and based on false information.
Okay, thanks for your point there.
I'd like to come back on that extremely strongly in a minute.
Okay, and then Derek.
I'm Eleanor from South London, and I'm really interested in thinking about groups that are politically active but not necessarily involved in political parties or not even voting, and particularly groups that Reclaim the Power here, or Ende Gelände in Germany, or the Zadist movement in France. And they maybe share eco-socialist analysis, and they're extremely good at setting up alternative visions, in a field very quickly overnight. But I wonder what your thoughts are about how we engage with those groups.
Okay, final thoughts to our panel?
I just want to say thank you. I didn't find many points on which I would disagree with Derek, perhaps one in this discussion, but hopefully there are more, because there is no progress without disagreement.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just thank you, and let us continue our struggles.
Yeah.
I'd like to finish on that, but I do want to come back on the Irish stuff. I'm very much with politics. Nobody's perfect, but if people are doing the right stuff, you should support that. If people are doing the wrong stuff, you should challenge that. And, there has been this kind of very much fundamentalist, realist position. And I'm certainly not somebody who says politics is just purity, which I think is what I've been expressing today. Greens can achieve things in government, but sometimes that can be damaging. And I have no apologies. You can shout me down here and say I'm wrong, and very wrong to write in the Morning Star, and how it's based on wrong information. But I felt, and a lot of people here felt, that if the Irish Greens, having promised not to go into government with Fianna Fáil in the election campaign, then went into government, that would be extremely damaging to the Green Party here. I know Irish politics is very, very difficult, but you've got Fianna Fáil, and you've got equivalent, you've got two big right-wing parties, long record of corruption in terms of land, and my feeling shared by many people, is that's not like the German Greens going into the coalition with SPD, and I know I'd have disagreed with the German Greens as well, but if you're going to go into a party who are on the centre-right, who are notoriously corrupt, that is going to reduce capacity. And in fact, the reason I became international coordinator was I was so ashamed that at a conference in Liverpool, we had Eamon from the Irish Greens coming over, so I challenged him quite robustly, and then thought, I'm going to stand against John Street, who's the international coordinator. It's so wrong that Eamon is here. And quite often people think I have a very soft politics, where I'm kind of saying, like both of us, it's very much work with people and change them. But I felt what happened in Ireland was really shocking. And again, I found it very good, very positive to work with the Morning Star a lot. I'm not saying, hey, they're communists, I won't work with them. But recently I stopped writing for them because they did an article which was challenging transgender, which is something which is very important to me. So what we have to have with politics is not a purist politics, we say no coalitions work, but we have to have a politics which is not saying if we're green we're automatically right. Sometimes we absolutely fuck up, and it may be that people in Ireland were right and I was wrong, but certainly I think it would be good maybe if the Irish Greens would reflect on their experience, how they lost seats, how that damaged the Green Party reputation.
Sorry,
so we're running out of time
you
now.
said we
we're
would
running out of
disappear
time.
for a generation,
Sorry, I'm
and
sorry.
we're back in the Parliament
Okay.
now.
Anyway,
You said that in your
thank
article.
you very
Okay,
much.
I was
Disappear for a
wrong. We
generation.
didn't disappear for a generation, but I think it was
We're
important.
back in the Parliament, we're back in city councils, we're back doing green stuff. One day in government is better than 1,000 days in
Thanks for your
opposition
comments.
doing nothing.
No.
Thanks for your comments.
Well,
We're
I think
running out of time.
I think that very clearly expresses our differences, and you can all judge on that.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks to our panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name's Carl.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name's Carl.
Nice to meet you.
In the
Cheers.